Tansei, I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. We begin in northern BC, where several people have been killed in a mass shooting at a secondary school in the small town of Tumbler Ridge. The incident has shattered the small community of barely 2,400 people. RCMP have confirmed at least 10 people are dead, including the suspected shooter.
We are not in a place now to be able to understand why and what may have motivated this tragedy. This was a rapidly evolving and dynamic situation, and the swift cooperation from the school, first responders, and the community played a critical role in our response.
It began with a call of an active shooter at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School yesterday afternoon. 6 people were found dead inside the school, 2 victims were airlifted to hospital, and a 3rd victim died while being transported. 2 other victims were found dead inside a home, and police believe it's connected to the incident. At this point, police aren't releasing details about the victims or the alleged shooter. There are 2 schools in Tumbler Ridge. Both have been shut down for the rest of the week. CTV News has since confirmed the shooter to be Jesse Strang. More updates are expected throughout the day. Police in the Algonquin community of Kitigan-Zibi in Quebec say 3 members of a family are dead following an incident early Wednesday morning. According to the Kitigan-Zibi Police Service, authorities received a call just after 2 a.m. this morning that the Sûreté du Québec, or SQ, will be involved because this is classed as a major incident. Some posts on social media identify the ages and relationships between the 3 deceased. However, the SQ told APTN News they could not yet release the names or ages of the people involved. In a public post on Facebook, Kitigan-Zibi activist Bridget Tolley confirmed the deceased were members of the Tolley family. Kitigan-Zibi is located about 150 kilometers north of Ottawa. And if you need support today, you can call the Hope for Wellness helpline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for counseling and crisis intervention at 1-855-242-3310 or connect to the online chat at www.hopeforwellness.ca and follow the links. A First Nations police detachment was the target of a drive-by shooting in the early morning hours on Tuesday. The Manitoba First Nations Police Service says unknown individuals approached the detachment in Fisher River Cree Nation on an all-terrain vehicle and fired numerous shots, striking the building's exterior and police vehicles on site. 2 officers were on duty inside the detachment at the time, but no one was injured. Investigators say there's no risk to the public and believe it was a targeted shooting. Fisher River Cree Nation is located about 200 kilometers north of Winnipeg. A statement released by Chief and Council say they are deeply concerned by the shooting. The statement says, "We will not tolerate any attempts to intimidate or threaten our community, especially from drug dealers or any individuals trying to undermine the safety and well-being of our people. Fisher River Cree Nation remains steadfast in our ongoing battle against drugs and criminal activity in our community." Anyone with information about this incident is asked to call the Fisher River Detachment. It has been more than 1 year since the death of 24-year-old Camray Bear, a man from Pinemutang First Nation whose remains were found following a house fire. Manitoba RCMP say that the fire and the man's death are considered suspicious, and there have been no arrests made since. On Friday, February 7th, 2025, at around 8:25 p.m., Gypsumville RCMP received a report of a house fire at an address just off of Highway 6 in Pinemutang First Nation. The house was fully engulfed and put out by the local fire department. 2 days later, the remains of Camray Bear were found in the rubble of the home. RCMP Major Crimes then took over the investigation and considered Bear's death and the fire as suspicious. More than 1 year later, no arrests have been made. If anyone has information on this incident, you're asked to call Gypsumville RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Sergeant James Demiduk with Manitoba RCMP Major Crimes said, "Pinemutang is a small, tight-knit community, and losing Bear is incredibly difficult for his family who knew and loved him." In a statement, he added, "The RCMP believe in the community and they know what happened to Camray Bear and are asking anyone with information to tell us what they know so we can move this investigation forward and help bring closure to Camray's loved ones. Penang is located about 233 kilometers northwest of Winnipeg. It has been 6 weeks since 3 people were injured and 1 man was killed in the Big Island Lake Cree Nation located in northwestern Saskatchewan, with still no arrests made in that incident. Now, Saskatchewan RCMP have released a video hoping the public can identify the getaway vehicle for 2 suspects believed to be involved. Saskatchewan RCMP say they are looking for this white side-by-side all-terrain vehicle with a black roof that was driven by 2 suspects in connection with a fatal shooting on December 30th in Big Island Lake Cree Nation. 31-year-old Neil Wapistaquan was killed and 3 others, 2 teenagers and an adult male, were also wounded in the shooting. A dangerous person alert was issued for Big Island Lake Cree Nation and the surrounding area as RCMP searched for the 2 suspects. However, they still have not been found. RCMP say they know people have information about the vehicle, including who the 2 suspects are. They're urging for anyone to come forward with information that can lead to the suspects' arrests. Big Island Lake Cree Nation is about 400 kilometers northwest of Saskatoon, near the Alberta border. Tuesday was the 6th day of the Aisha Hudson inquest in Winnipeg. Hudson was shot and killed by a Winnipeg police officer after an alleged liquor mart robbery and high-speed pursuit on April 8, 2020 in the city. APTN's Julia Ross reports.
3 of the 4 other youth who were in the Jeep Aisha Hudson was driving when she was shot and killed by police testified as witnesses Tuesday at the inquest into her death. The court stated that all youths must remain anonymous. The witnesses testified that they were scared and were reacting moment by moment. One said that earlier in the day, some of the group, including Hudson, used marijuana and cocaine, and that everyone in the vehicle had been drinking. Another witness testified that she was Hudson's best friend and that she knew something was wrong when all occupants of the Jeep had been removed except Hudson. She then continued and says Hudson was dragged into the middle of the road, and after a long time of officers doing CPR, a blanket was placed over her. She testified that she was punched in the face by an officer, and another stated that he felt their vehicle being rammed by an officer from behind during pursuit. Each youth says that before the incident, they had each been arrested and witnessed family or friends being arrested. When asked their recommendations to stop further tragedies from happening in the future, 2 witnesses said that it was unnecessary for Hudson to have been shot and there should have been other things done that day. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The head of the Assembly of First Nations says separatists are wasting a lot of time threatening to take Alberta out of Canada. Cindy Woodhouse-Nepanak says it's simply not going to happen. Her frank assessment comes as new polling suggests the vast majority of Albertans want to remain in Confederation, and members of Alberta's own government won't even reveal where they truly stand. CTV's Tim Brooke reports.
A resounding message from First Nations groups on Tuesday.
If you vote to separate from Canada, you can't take the land with you.
The National Chief says separatists can leave Alberta, but they can't have treaty lands.
That they can take the dirt that maybe their ancestors brought with them under their fingernails when they came over here from other places, because that's the only piece of land that they're going to take.
It's the latest barb in a long-standing back and forth between those who want the province to leave and those who don't. Alberta's last premier falls squarely in the latter camp.
For me, this is personal, and I think it is for a lot of Albertans too, including Albertans who really do believe we've gotten a raw deal and believe in a strong province.
Jason Kenney also believes it's time for stronger messaging from those in charge.
The fact that you apparently have a large and growing number of people in that party who are trying to turn it into a separatist party is, I think, troublesome. And I think that this is not something where you can be half pregnant.
CTV News emailed every UCP MLA to ask if they've signed Alberta's separation petition. Not one returned our message. And the Premier is still repeating the party line, saying she's working with Ottawa to address Alberta's problems.
If she's saying she wants a sovereign Alberta and united Canada, it sounds like she is giving everybody what they want.
For one Conservative Calgary MP, it's a complicated crossroads.
I refuse to have it just be framed as, one side versus the other. I think that that's really problematic.
Michelle Rempel-Garner says she has vocal constituents on both ends of the separation spectrum. She tells us it should be a learning moment that long-term can address real problems.
I just caution people who might be tempted to devolve this into a rote political wedge to have a moment of sobriety and say, no, this is a moment to bring people together in a constructive way.
The petition for Alberta independence needs roughly 178,000 signatures by May to force a referendum. Tim Brooke, CTV News, Calgary.
Separatists claim their movement has widespread UCP support, but Danielle Smith insists she still does not know which of her MLAs have signed the petition to leave Canada. Following those remarks AFN Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak made regarding Albertans who want to separate from Canada, the National Chief says she has since received threats by email and texts. In a series of posts to social media, she added, "Canada is treaty territory. First Nations were here first. Canada is First Nations land, each and every square inch of it. I will say it again. If you don't like this country we are building together, you are free to leave, but the land stays here with First Nations people. We love our country. Have a good day. Have a good week ahead, folks." The Assembly of First Nations said it will be involving the RCMP to look into the threats made against National Chiefs Woodhouse-Nepenak. They said this is not the first incident, and the AFN has also received phone calls from the public that they say are extremely inappropriate and racist. The AFN said they also receive a lot of online hate when speaking about issues like separation and Indian residential school denialism. There are more First Nations sharing their concerns about their members who want to travel to the United States. That story after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Leaders on a pair of First Nations are issuing travel advisories telling band members not to travel to the United States because of racial profiling south of the border, leading to Native Americans being arrested and interrogated. CTV's Scott Miller reports.
Native Americans from Minnesota have been printing off their tribal identification so they have documentation if they are stopped by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers.
Folks are being racially targeted and profiled right now for having dark hair, dark skin.
That fear has spread to Canada, where leaders with the Saugeen First Nation and Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation, both in Bruce County, have put out United States travel advisories for their members.
Because Indigenous peoples have, I think, a certain color to their skin. They're being targeted by the United States of America, Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Chief Conrad Ritchie with the Saugeen First Nation had this to say: ICE has targeted tribal citizens, so it's important to know your rights and have proper documentation. Leaders with both Saugeen and Nawash are urging band members to carry their birth certificate, green card, passport, and even a special letter confirming 50% American Indian blood quantum if they do travel south.
We do have members that are making inquiries to our band office about these blood quantum letters, which are a requirement of the United States for people to live and work there.
While Keishik Martin says she's unaware of any of their band members being stopped by ICE, it has been a daily occurrence in places like Minnesota, say First Nations members there.
We were the first peoples here, and it's just crazy that our people are getting picked up, and thrown in a car and brought out to some federal holding place. That's sad.
Keishik Martin says Nawash's U.S. travel advisory will remain in effect indefinitely.
I don't think we could have imagined this a few years ago or several years ago. It's putting more fear into our people.
In Bruce County, Scott Miller, CTV News.
APTN News recently spoke with a Greenlandic Inuk living in Canada about sovereignty in her homeland and the U.S. threats of annexation. APTN Sav Jonza reports.
Recent U.S. threats of annexing Greenland have stunted conversations around the territory's independence from Denmark. While many Greenlandic Inuit want sovereignty, Denmark provides their military defense, keeping them safe from foreign interference. It's a sticky situation to be in, says Tupangnuk Kopek.
And what I feel as a Greenlandic Inuit that talks about independence for Greenland, this has been a little bit hard because the conversations have been a little bit put on hold now. But that's just how it is. And I don't think I can ever forgive Trump for that because we deserve these conversations.
Kopek was born and raised in Nuuk, Greenland, but has lived in Canada for the last 5 years. She shared the story of her homeland struggle during a keynote speech at a conference in Winnipeg.
Greenland, in my opinion, is one of the most peaceful places on Earth, and now is being discussed as a potential site of conflict. A place with no military on its own, a place centered around community, land, and survival. At some point, we even asked ourselves, is Greenland going to be the reason why there is World War III?
Kopek says family and friends living in Greenland were scared enough to consider fleeing their homes after their prime minister told them to prepare for a possible U.S. military invasion in January. She says over the last year, fears around U.S. interests in Greenland have changed the course away from independence.
I noticed our last election, a party that usually isn't the biggest party, but the party that's one we know wants to stay connected to Denmark, won. They were the biggest party now, where they usually aren't, because people were like, now we need to stick together.
At the World Economic Forum, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said his country stands firmly with Greenland and Denmark. He did not mention Inuit. In February, Canada opened a consulate in Nuuk, one of the first countries to do so. More than 90 Inuit from Canada flew there to celebrate the milestone. Kopek says the relationship between Inuit in Canada and Greenland remains strong.
It was beautiful to see, like the whole plane filled with Canadian Inuit with the Greenlandic flag and the Canadian flag together. It really warmed my heart and just showed that we Inuit are one people, just separated by borders.
Kopek says Canada made one glaring mistake that could have acknowledged Inuit living in both countries. She says the consul should have been in Inuk.
Or maybe it's hard to find someone right for the job, but I don't think so. There's so many amazing, smart Inuit up there.
Sav Jones, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Registration under the Indian Act was the topic of discussion at a parliamentary committee on Tuesday. The Standing Committee on Indigenous and Northern Affairs was looking specifically at the Act's second-generation cutoff. Last year, the Senate's Standing Committee on Indigenous Peoples amended Bill S2. It would eliminate the second-generation cutoff on passing down Indian status. The bill still needs to be passed in the House of Commons. Laurie Doran is the Director General of Individual Affairs with Indigenous Services. She told the committee the government is committed to eliminating the second-generation cutoff, but needs to consult with communities to determine the best path forward.
So we're consulting not on whether to remove the second-generation cutoff. The government is committed to a solution. The consultation is how. So one-parent rule in perpetuity is one solution, like removing it, going back to what existed pre-1985 with just one registration category. But there are self-determined approaches that are both within and outside of the Indian Act.
We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on the website, we ask, are you watching the Winter Olympics? You can answer yes or no. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca to have your say. A First Nation in Ontario is celebrating after its grand opening of its Children's Centre. That story after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Charlottetown -3, Halifax +1. Cartwright -5 and flurries there. Happy Valley Goose Bay -7. Saquenet -6, Gaspé, rain and -4. North Bay -7, Peterborough 0. Sudbury -6, Thunder Bay -9. Churchill -24, Puckatawagan -11. -12 in Winnipeg, Barons River -12 as well. Cloudy in Saskatoon at -6, Regina -3. -11 in Uranium City, Buffalo Narrows, cloudy there as well at -8. High Level -2, Fort Chipewyan -5. 7 in Medicine Hat, Calgary 7. Vancouver cloudy and 6, Kamloops sunny and 9. Dees Lake 0, Fort Nelson 2 and partly cloudy. Sunny in Old Crow at -27, Rock River -30. Cloudy in Trout Lake at -6, sun's out in Yellowknife at -17. Sax Harbor -45, Colville Lake -23. -33 in Baker Lake, Chesterfield -25. And Igloolik -19, Iqaluit -18. A First Nation community west of Sudbury in Ontario celebrated the grand opening of its new children's centre on Monday. And as CTV's Lindsay Alick tells us, it's been in the works for more than 3 decades.
Wasaquah Children's Centre is a community-driven licensed early learning and childcare centre. It has more than 40 spaces accommodating children age 18 months up to 6 years, with a before and after school program launching next school year.
Currently, this centre is opening its doors for community members to have the opportunity to gain access to childcare for their children. So working and studying community members within Atikameksheng and Anishinaabe First Nation.
The idea for the center was first brought forward by a group of women in the community. And although it took over 30 years to come to fruition, Gima Craig Nuchatai says it has always remained a priority.
It's like how we're going to ensure that our kids are going to be raised in an environment where they will learn all about Atikameksheng and who they are as Anishinaabe people. And that's so important to make sure that they have a strong identity and belief in who they are.
They'll read the story to you in the language.
One of the highlights is the chameleon pens.
We're grateful to have community members that have programmed those pens and share their language to then expand within our center. So we have maps of the area. We have children's books that can be read in English and then listened to in the language, which not only help our children gain the knowledge and retain the language, but our educators.
Gima Nuchatai says there are 350 people living in the First Nation, with another 1,200 members residing in the Sudbury area. The hope is that services could be expanded to serve those not living in the community. Meantime, he adds officials continue to work on expanding education opportunities, including building an elementary school here one day. Lindsay Alick, CTV News, Atikameksheng, Anishinaabeg.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast. Please join us then. Hug your family members and tell them you love them. It has been a very tough week in our country. Hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.